everyone. Good afternoon to those of you who are joining us on the East Coast, as well as the Pacific Northwest. Good evening to those of you who are joining us all throughout Europe, South Africa, and beyond. My name is Ethan Marcus. It's my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Sephardic Jewish Brotherhood of America, the national umbrella organization for the Ladino-speaking Sephardic communities of the United States. Before we begin the program, I just want to take a moment to thank particularly our generous benefactors for this year's program, the Russo family, the Baral family, and the Shalom family. Without their generous support for this year's program, it would not be possible. So thank you all so much for your support. In addition, I want to take a moment to thank all our partners, our national affiliates throughout the United States, in Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey, Atlanta, Miami, Seattle, Portland, Indianapolis, Chicago, and Los Angeles and beyond. I want to thank them all tremendously for their support in this year's program, as well as our international partners in Thessaloniki, Athens, Istanbul, Izmir, Monastir, Rome, and South Africa, in Johannesburg, in Cape Town, and in Brussels, Belgium. Thank them all so much for their participation in this year's program. It's my pleasure first to introduce our dear friend and one of our community leaders, Rabbi Nissim El-Nekaveh of the Sephardic Jewish Brotherhood of America, to say a few welcoming words. Rabbi Nissim, bechavod.
Ethan, thank you. Thank you so much. Dear friends, thank you. Thank you for joining us on this very, very important day. This is the time that we want to remember, and it is the time that we don't want to forget what was done to our people, millions of innocent lives. Sadly, through the years, the loss of so many Sephardic communities has largely been overlooked. Yes, it is an imperative of great importance that we remember the victims of the Holocaust. But we must also learn and teach about them and who they were. We do realize that we Sephardim are very close. We're very tight, strongly linked to each other. We are one community. And when we think of one life that is lost, we think about the loss that it represents, the pain and the suffering. So much knowledge, so much history that disappears with the loss of one individual. But when we multiply it by thousands, when entire communities disappear, how much has been lost with them? How great is the pain? It is their lives, their thoughts, their stories, their language, their songs, their traditions, and so much more that cannot be brought back. Yes, it is indeed an imperative that we all remember them and give them honor. It is our obligation to give them the proper respect that they are due. The losses of our communities and the tragedy is overwhelming. This is what hate can do. Yet today, we must look forward. We need to learn about our past, our great history, our beautiful communities and traditions. We must work together to bring them back and make our past shine again. The Sephardic Jewish Brotherhood of America is working very much towards that goal. Sephardim, we're tight, we're linked. There's so much love amongst us. We're a big family. Today, on this Yom HaShoah, as we remember the victims, we also look forward, full of hope, that with much love, we will continue to bring the Sephardic community closer together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chacham, for those beautiful words as always. It's really such a pleasure to have one of our incredible leaders in the national community speak today. Now, really my honor and privilege to invite Her Excellency Ambassador Alexandra Papadopoulou of the Embassy of Greece to the United States to say a few pre-recorded words.
Dear friends, Dear friends, I join you on this solemn occasion in honor of Yom HaShoah, or Holocaust Remembrance Day, Israel's memorial day for the 6 million Jewish lives that perished in the Holocaust in the hands of the Nazis. It is a day filled with sorrow and pain, but also with resoluteness and perseverance, in the belief that life in the end will triumph, in the belief that in the end evil will be defeated. Remembrance and commemoration are not only the means for honoring those who fell victim to such senseless violence and hatred, they are also the best defense against bigotry and racism. They are also a means by which to continue to raise awareness so that this horrific story, these horrific acts will never be repeated and will never be forgotten. Such events also serve to hold ourselves accountable and renew our commitment to never forget and do all we can never to allow such atrocities to happen again. In Greece, we suffered great losses during World War II, including losing the greatest portion of our Jewish communities, despite efforts by many fellow Greeks to protect their Jewish brethren. And while today only a fraction of the then Jewish population remains in Greece, they're a thriving, flourishing community which continues to honor its culture and heritage, integrated into the mainstream of Greek society in all sectors of the social and political arena. In closing, I would like to congratulate all of you, especially Marshal Haddad Economopoulos, who continue to work hard to keep this history alive and to honor the memory of those who perished. Thank you all for doing me this great honor to invite me to participate in this important occasion.
We thank the ambassador again and the Greek embassy to the United States for their participation this year. We'll now have a special few words of welcome from the Father Nicholas of the Greek Archdiocese of America, the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America, to say a few words on behalf of them. Please, whenever you're ready, Father Nicholas.
Thank you. Kalispera says, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, what an honor to be with you this afternoon. Allow me first to convey His Eminence Archbishop Elpidophorus's greetings. He regrets for not being able to participate in this very special international commemoration of the Sephardic and Romaniote victims of the Holocaust in Europe. As you all know, the relations between Judaism and Orthodoxy have a very special place in His Eminence's heart, especially the Romaniotes and Sephardic communities of Thessaloniki that suffered so much during the Nazi occupation of Greece. As Greek Orthodox Christians, our belief in the intrinsic dignity of the human being fashioned in the image and likeness of God motivates us to seek justice for all human beings. The witness of countless Orthodox Christians who risked their lives during the Second World War to save the lives of their Jewish neighbors bears witness to our belief that every life is precious. The Jewish community has recognized many of these Orthodox Christians who aided Jews in their time of need as righteous among the nations. As a church, the memory of these great men and women of our faith motivates us to be worthy successors to their example. If I had to mention only one of these heroes, it would be Metropolitan Chrysostomos of Zakynthos, who during World War II protected 275 Jews living on the island of Zakynthos from German forces. As I said, I feel honored and privileged to be among you today. I would like to let you know that in October 2020, the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America released a resource page in response to anti-Semitism inspired by His Eminence's leadership. For Archbishop Elpidio Force, our opposition to anti-Semitism is a measure of our society's spiritual health or sickness. Every person of faith should confront and challenge bigotry, discrimination, and dehumanization. Thank you for your kind attention and welcome.
Thank you so much, Father Nicholas. On behalf of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America, we really appreciate your participation and your kind words. It's now really my distinct honor and privilege to invite Chief Rabbi Ricardo Defendi, the Chief Rabbi of Rome, to say a few words on behalf of the Jewish communities of Italy. A very special man, Rabbi Defendi, actually born from a long list of rabbis, more than 3 generations. Himself completed his rabbinical studies in 1973 and was elected Chief Rabbi of Rome in 2001. Rabbi Defendi, I just need you to unmute, and when you're ready, Bechavod.
It's a big pleasure and honor to be with you. Thank you for this invitation. It is important for us to remember the Shoah, and in particular for people living in Italy, to remember the Shoah of the Sephardic part of the Jewish people, which has been so close, part of us. In Italy, I can quote the words of the late Rabbi Toaf, Alfredo Toaf, the father of our mythical Elio Toaf. He was the chief rabbi of Legon, and he used to say that there were only 2 fundamental communities in the Mediterranean basin and the Sephardic world. There were Legon and Thessaloniki. And Thessaloniki disappeared during the war. And we had the privilege of have with us one of the survivors who wrote books about the history. It was Shlomo Venezia, who was part of the Sonderkommando. So he led one of the most tragical witnesses about what happened to him, to his family, and to all the population of his town. And we also have still here, and we pray for a long life for him, an old man from Rhodes, from the island of Rhodes. Rhodes was an Italian colony until the end of the war, and people there was protected for the short time. But when Italy did an armistice, all the people were taken and murdered in Auschwitz after a tragical journey in ships passing through Athens. And we have this incredible witness speaking with us, staying with us with the strength, and notwithstanding his age more than 90 years. Everybody here in the world suffered from all the story, and everybody in the Jewish community feels the duty to remember and to tell. Now, especially now that we are passing to the next generation. In these times, we feel a special urgency and need about the duty of memory. The universal need to give a message to all the mankind is also mixed with some danger. And the danger is that people don't like more to speak about the day of memory, but the day of memories, plural, and mixing all kind of tragical eminent story all together. And it's very important to be very careful and about the all kind of genocide that unfortunately have been done in the story just after the Shoah, the Holocaust. But if you want to remember all the things, you will not remember anything. So we have to be very careful about the risk of watering our memory. Our memory must be kept as it is and must be a model, must be an enormous teaching for all the mankind. But let's be very careful about what could happen with this memory. For this reason, I thank you for maintaining this duty, for devoting this time to the special memory of the community who disappeared in the Mediterranean basin, and more generally the fate, the terrible fate of the Sephardic community all around in Europe, from Amsterdam to France to Italy, and obviously in Yugoslavia and in Greece. Their memory will be with us. We must not forget, and we must keep a lively flame in that memory. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chief Rabbi Defendi. It's really such an honor and privilege to have you with us this year for this special commemoration. Thank you so much. We now have today a very special guest, a survivor who's going to provide us with some testimony from Greece. To do a brief introduction to him, we have Marshal Haddad Komomopoulos, the museum director of Kehillah, Kedoshayana Synagogue and Museum, who will say a few words now about this wonderful speaker. Marsha, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Ethan. I would like to thank the Sephardic Jewish Brotherhood of America and Kehillah Kedoshayana for giving me the honor of introducing my dear friend, David Baruch. I first met David a number of years ago when he joined one of my tours to Jewish Greece. In interviewing him as a potential participant, I was enchanted with his story. I learned that he was born in Greece, but had only gone back once since he left, and that for a family funeral. He expressed to me that when he married his wife, he told her that he would take her anywhere in the world, but not to Greece. His memories were overshadowed by pain, having lived through the Holocaust and the Greek Civil War. David, I'm glad you changed your mind and joined me in Greece. Your presence enriched our tours, both for me and for the other participants. I remember well you walking us through Patara, your place of birth, and sharing your memories of growing up Jewish in Patara. I remember well our visit to the Jewish Museum of Greece in Athens, and you finding the Torah scroll you had held for your bar mitzvah. The photo of you holding that scroll is one of my treasured memories. In my journey through life, I measure my treasures, not by things of monetary value, nor by acquisitions, but rather by special friends I have acquired along the way. David and his wife Gail are among my treasures. As we commemorate Yom HaShoah, we stop and remember those we lost, those murdered by the perpetrators. We also stop to remember the survivors, those individuals who endured and survived. These individuals are so important, not only to commend for their courage, but also as example of what was lost to the Jewish nation and to their countries of origin, in this case, Greece. For every David Baruch who survived, there are thousands who did not. For every David Baruch who made the world richer through his personal achievements, there are thousands whose possible achievements have been lost. Thank you, David Baruch. It is an honor to know you and an honor to introduce you.
David, whenever you are ready. We can hear you.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you. is Holocaust Remembrance Day, sharing memories of my family, the Jewish community of Patras. My name is David Baruch. I was born in Patras, Greece. I am Jewish, Romaniote, and a Holocaust survivor. My birth town had a small Jewish community of 347 men, women, and children. We had a synagogue and a full-time rabbi. I attended public school with the Christian Catholics, boys and girls. I had many friends from the school and our neighborhood. We enjoyed life as one friendly group, although we understood the difference of our religions. As friends, we visited each other's homes on a frequent basis, including during the holidays of each religion. My Christian friends always came and visited our home. They were welcomed by my family and tasted a variety of sweets prepared by my grandmother during the Jewish holidays. I also was welcomed to their home during their Christian holidays. It was an exchange of a true friendship. Attending religious services on a Friday night and Saturday morning with members of my family was very special. I was proud to walk the streets of Patras with my family. On Saturday morning, I had the pleasure of walking with my grandmother to the synagogue. She was a very special, a kind lady. She was my protector. It was a wonderful and enjoyable life, free and safe, living in Patras prior to the Holocaust. Patras under German occupation. The German army occupied Greece from April 1941 to October 1944. I remember the first day the German army arrived in Patras. The German general organized a large military parade with heavy artillery and hundreds of soldiers. The parade had loud German music and lasted several hours going through the main streets of our city. The Germans used the main square of Patras to park their large tanks for several months. The streets were deserted because people were scared and afraid. We were afraid to walk alone and after dark. The German soldiers had the right to stop any individual during the day and night and request the person's personal ID card. That was also an approach for searching and locating the Jewish people. Preparation for hiding. Many Jewish persons in Greece knew that Hitler's objectives were the extermination of all Jews for the occupied countries. The Jews of Patras were getting the information from word of mouth and ready to move out of the city at a moment's notice. We were monitoring what was happening in Thessaloniki. The board of directors of the Jewish community of Patras, including my father and uncle, had a close relationship with several key local, state, and religious leaders. The local police commissioner issued fake IDs for each member of my family at my father's request. Each fake ID changed the Jewish name to a Christian one and the Jewish religion to a Christian Orthodox. Those fake IDs saved our lives. My name was changed from David Baruch to Yorgos Varoufos. My father and uncle had identified a hiding location with the assistance of a close and trustworthy business associate. Every member of my family had been informed and prepared for a departure to the hiding location if necessary. This hiding location was in the mountains near the village of Rachni, which was located about 40 to 50 kilometers southeast of Patras. The house consisted of 4 walls, a small window, and a door without electricity and water. It was empty and filthy without furniture. The house could not be seen by any person because it was surrounded by tall and thick branches and trees. 2 individuals knew the location of the house and had agreed that a Jewish family would be living in that house. These 2 individuals were the local Orthodox priest and the president of the village. Life in hiding. By late August or early September of 1943, and several days before Rosh Hashanah, the president of Jewish community called a meeting in our synagogue. I attended that meeting with my father, uncle, and brother. We noticed a number of small and private conversations with individuals being terrified and scared. The president arrived and informed all individuals that the Germans are getting ready to transport all Jews from Patras to the concentration camps of Auschwitz and Birkenau. I noticed moments of panic, worry, and anxiety by many individuals, including my father and my uncle. We left the meeting and walked home fast and silently. My father and my uncle informed the family to get ready for our escape to the hiding location. My grandmother was extremely uncomfortable leaving her home, which she had prepared for the Jewish holidays. After a lengthy and tense discussion, my grandmother finally agreed, and we got ready for our departure the following day. My Aunt Betty had a Christian Orthodox girlfriend, and the 2 families had established a close relationship. This good family provided lodging for my family that evening in the basement of their house. If found by the Germans, the result would have been catastrophic, as they would have killed every member of both families. The following day, one by one, we left and walked the mountain roads to the hiding location under the direction of my father's business associate. My father had arranged for a horse carriage to take my grandmother along with some personal belongings. We did not want to be seen by locals or German soldiers. We finally arrived to the mountains of Brachny. We were exhausted. I recall my family's experience celebrating the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in the mountains of Brachny. Every member of the family had tears in our eyes, and we avoid facing each other. My father and my uncle read several prayers with the books my grandmother collected prior to leaving our home from Patras. It was a short religious service. I am sure that every Jewish family experienced the same pain, fear, and anxiety, celebrating the Jewish holidays away from their friends and relatives. Our daily life in hiding. Our daily life during the Holocaust in hiding was scary and frightening. We did not know if we shall be alive the next moment or the next day. The German soldiers were visiting the village and the surrounding area quite frequently. We spent most of the days inside the house. Depending on weather condition, we took a walk outside and around the house in order to get some fresh air. The Christian Orthodox priest and the president of the village were the only 2 individuals we had communications. These 2 individuals provided us with whatever information was available, such as the war in Europe, the sporadic fights between freedom fighters and the German army, and the status for the transportation of Jews to the concentration camps. The same also individuals coordinated the purchase and delivery of our food on an infrequent basis. It was difficult for them to schedule a regular purchase and delivery of food due to the frequent presence of the German army. They did not want other people from the village to know that there was a Jewish family hiding outside the village. There were many times that we had limited food. The German soldiers visited the village of Brachny 2 to 3 times weekly. There were many scary moments due to unexpected visits by the German army. The German soldiers were passing 200 to 300 yards away from the hiding location. They could not see us because the house was fully covered by tall trees and thick branches. It was very important not to be seen by them. March 25th, 1944 was Greek Independence Day. We were informed by the Christian Orthodox priest and the president of the village that on this day, the Germans transported the Jews from Patras, Ioannina, Preveza, Arta, and other cities to the concentration camps. My family feared that 2 sisters with their husbands living in Patras and Ioannina were among those transported to the concentration camps. Liberation Day. We spent 13 months in hiding from September 1943 to October 1944. One day, the bells from the village church were ringing so loud and continuously that we could hear them. Although we were far away, we did not know the reason. We suspected that the German army were arriving to permanently capture and live in the village, which would be an extremely difficult and dangerous situation. Fortunately, the Christian Orthodox Church and the president of the village arrived at our hiding location, extremely happy, announcing to us that Greece has been liberated by the English army and we are free to return to our home in Patras. We heard the good news. However, we had difficulty believing that we were free and safe. October 24, 1944 was a day that I will remember very well. My father, with his brother, arranged from a horse carriage to transport us from the mountains of Brachny to our home in Patras. Once again, we were free people to walk the streets without fear. I remember extremely well our first dinner in our dining room with table and chairs. It was an emotional dinner because our thoughts were with our 2 aunts and their husbands. We did not know their status, if they were dead or alive. A few months later, we heard that my aunt and uncle from Patras, including my uncle from Ioannina, were exterminated upon arrival into the concentration camp. Several months later, we were told that my aunt from Ioannina was transferred to Stockholm, Sweden, in a hospital for medical reasons. She eventually returned to Patras 18 months later. According to known information, the Germans transported almost 100 Jews from Patras to the concentration camp. After the war, Patras had a population of only 200 Jews. The Jewish community of Patras was dissolved in 1980. The synagogue's artifacts were removed and transferred to the Jewish Museum of Athens. In July 2014, I visited the museum and I held the same Sefer Torah that my father handed over to me during my bar mitzvah. It was an emotional moment that I will truly remember. Thank you.
David. Thank you so much, David, for that important testimony and those words, those beautiful words of reflection about your experience. Thank you for your participation this year. I know it must be difficult to talk about these things. Many of our communities throughout Greece, the former Yugoslavia, and Europe were devastated. One community in particular that many of us know and many of us have direct connection to is Thessaloniki, Salonika. In fact, many of the Sephardic Brotherhood leaders, including a member named Dr. Albert Menashe, who recently had his Holocaust testimony published, experienced terrible difficulties in Auschwitz, and then later on arriving to the United States after Salonika was almost destroyed in his community. Others, however, remained in these communities. And one person who has an extensive knowledge of this, who will speak a little bit about this now, is Dr. Leon Celtiel. Dr. Celtiel was born and raised in Thessaloniki. He holds a PhD in contemporary Greek history from the University of Macedonia in Thessaloniki, and has been a postdoctoral researcher at the Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies in Geneva, Switzerland, and the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. His publications include The Holocaust in Thessaloniki, Reactions to the Anti-Jewish Persecution, and Do Not Forget Me, 3 Jewish Mothers' Rights to Their Sons from the Ghetto of Thessaloniki. He's a member of the Central Board of the Jewish Communities of Greece and of the Greek delegation to the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. Dr. Celtiel, whenever you're ready, come on.
Thank you so much. Dear rabbis, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I would like to thank the Sephardic Brotherhood of America for inviting me to this very moving commemoration on the occasion of Yom HaShoah, with so many distinguished speakers and participants. I've been asked to speak about the post-war memory of the Holocaust in Thessaloniki going on until today, a city which counted more than 50,000 Jews when the German army entered the city on the 9th of April, 1941, 80 years ago, and where more than 90% found a tragic death at the Nazi death camps. As we're meeting virtually, I've decided to prepare a PowerPoint and make my presentation using a lot of photographs so you can follow it much easier. I also apologize in advance that I'll cover this period without going into much detail in the 10 minutes that has been allotted to me. So with those words, let me start the PowerPoint. So as I said, the topic of my presentation is the memory of the Holocaust and its commemoration in the post-war Thessaloniki until today. You may recognize this very emblematic picture, which is also found at the Holocaust Museum in Washington, showing 4 Holocaust survivors in Thessaloniki. After the war, the Jews returned to the city, others from hiding, others from fighting with the guerrillas in the mountains, and others from the camps. You see on the right a photograph of a survivor in the city wearing the uniform of the camps, and also pictures of Jews as they found the demolished Jewish cemetery. And they see all the rubble that used to be the graves of their forefathers. This is also photographs of former Jewish neighborhoods and synagogues in the aftermath of the war. The community is starting to reorganize itself. There are a lot of weddings. You see some pictures of group weddings that took place in Thessaloniki after the war. There's a beginning of some kind of Jewish community life and education. Also, a lot of children, many orphans, are leaving Greece at the time to go to Palestine, which eventually becomes the state of Israel. These are pictures at the port of Piraeus of young Jewish children and other families leaving to Israel. During this time in Thessaloniki, the memory is still very fresh. Here you see a little known picture of Holocaust survivors wearing the uniforms from the camps, marching in the city of Thessaloniki in the aftermath of the war, probably in some national holiday parade, also carrying the Greek flag, as you can see. Here it's survivors and who come together in the grounds of the old cemetery to commemorate the dead. And here it's also an Ashkeva, a prayer on Yom HaShoah, 1946. The gentleman carrying the book is Rabbi Michael Molcho, who was himself, of course, everybody in the picture is a Holocaust survivor. He became the rabbi of the community until he left a few years later to become a rabbi in Buenos Aires in Argentina. He, Michael Molcho, together with Yosef Nechama, wrote also the volume In Memoriam, which they started publishing immediately after the war. It's one of the first records of the Holocaust in Thessaloniki and the whole of Greece, and which volume he continued in Buenos Aires after his migration, originally published in French. During the same time, when the people return back from the camps, Greece is engulfed in a horrible civil war, as you all know. Many Jews were fighting with the partisans during the war, and they are have very good relations with the communist resistance. And many are called to serve in the army to fight against those people. The Jews are also seen as communists by the authorities, and that creates also a lot of problems for a big part of the Jewish community. The Holocaust commemoration starts in the community, and a big event in the 50s that many of you may know is the trial of Nazi war criminal Max Merten, which you see here in pictures. Merten was arrested in Athens in 1957. A trial followed in 1959. It caused a lot of attention in the country, especially as he was charging the prime minister of the time of being a collaborator of the Germans. So that created a lot of emotion, a lot of headlines. The trial lasted for a few weeks, and then eventually he was released and sent to Germany, where he did not face any further charges. With all these things, however, the memory of the Holocaust is not yet mainstream in Greece. This trial did not create a lot of public interest in the plight of the Jews, of the whole of the country, not just of Thessaloniki. And the commemoration still remains, as we say in Ladino, entre nosotros, meaning the community would commemorate many things within its own members and not be part of the wider community. Here you see, I added this text as it's in Ladino, as we speak about Sephardic Ladino-speaking Jews, where the chief rabbi of the rabbis of Thessaloniki invite the members in 1962 to a commemoration of the victims of the Holocaust in the synagogue. And here is a picture of that ceremony, which of course from the mid-50s is an annual commemoration taking place around this time in the main synagogue of Thessaloniki. In 1962, we have the inauguration of the Holocaust monument on the site of the new cemetery of Thessaloniki. This is a picture of the inauguration, and you see also the presence of the military and many government officials. And this is the monument itself. It's located within the new Jewish cemetery, so it's still not part of the wider city. This is a visit of Nahum Goldman, the president of the World Jewish Congress, to that monument a few years later. 1967, we have the book, the music record Mauthausen by Mikis Theodorakis, sang by Maria Farandouri, which speaks about the young Jewish woman who is inmate of Auschwitz. Again, this doesn't create a big interest in the wider society of the Holocaust in the country, in Greece. Of course, this is followed by the Greek military dictatorship that lasted for 7 years, that brought a lot of course, human rights violations, and also the loss of Cyprus at the end of it. But their motto, as you can see here, is Greece of Greek Christians. So that also did not let a lot of space for the memory of the Holocaust in Greece in that period. This all is changing in the 90s. In the 90s, we have seen a plethora of publications with Holocaust testimonies, and you see here some of the covers. So the survivors start to speak with some delay, but that phenomenon is also seen in the rest of Europe, not just in Thessaloniki. We have the inauguration of the Holocaust Monument of Thessaloniki, and you see here Greek President Stephanopoulos in 1997. Now this is in the city center, not anymore further away within a fence, but this is a public monument. This is also happening when Thessaloniki is the cultural capital of Europe in 1997. Here is a year later, the King of Spain visiting the monument and paying homage to the Sephardic Jews, a very moving ceremony. 2001, we have the creation of the Jewish Museum of Thessaloniki, which also becomes a landmark for all visitors who visit the city. 2003, for example, in the monument was visited by Patriarch Bartholomew of Constantinople, a very significant also instance in the memory of the Holocaust in the city. 2004, the Greek Parliament unanimously agrees to name 27th of January as Holocaust Remembrance Day by the Greek government. So in addition to Yom HaShoah that we're commemorating today, Greece joins many other European countries that have also institutioned the 27th of January as Holocaust Remembrance Day. 2006, the Holocaust Monument moves from its previous location to Liberty Square, and Liberty Square is the site that all of you must have seen these pictures of the call of Jews to enlist for slave labor by the Nazis in the Black Sabbath of July 1942. And this is where the monument is now located, and it will be its permanent location. 2013, we have the first Greek Prime Minister who visits the synagogue and speaks on a Yom HaShoah commemoration, Andonis Samaras. This year also, we have a third date on the calendar, which is the 15th of March, which is the departure of the first deportation train from Thessaloniki. And that was done, there's a big march that takes place from Liberty Square to the old railway station, attended by thousands of people. So we have now a third day that's become institutionalized in the city to commemorate the victims of the Holocaust. 2014, Mayor Boutaris, that's behind a lot of these movements, including the march in the recent years to rekindle the memory of the Holocaust and reconcile Thessaloniki with his Jewish past. He's taking the oath of office for the second time, and he's wearing the Jewish star in his lapel in opposition to the Golden Dawn representatives, the neo-Nazi political party that was in Greece and had the members of their party elected to the municipal board of Thessaloniki. 2014, we also have the inauguration of a monument on the cemetery grounds to commemorate the destroyed Jewish cemetery. And here again, you see a picture of that ceremony. 2016, we have a lot of civil society initiatives. The memory of the Holocaust is not anymore part of the Jewish community, but it's also other elements of the city are getting involved. Here you see students from schools doing theatrical pieces. You have the Stolpenstein, as you may know, that are put in different places in the city. A lot of signs in buildings, in sites commemorating students or individuals, street names, statutes. So we have seen a rekindling of Jewish memory in the city. 2016, it's the renovation of the historic Monasteriote Synagogue of Thessaloniki. And you see the interior again with the Holocaust Yom HaShoah commemoration signs. 2017, the monument that I spoke, we have vandalisms, and this has the Golden Dawn logo, and that's a publication that was involved about anti-Semitism in Greece. And then again in 2018, so we have vandalism, but at the same time we have a reaction from healthy aspects of healthy sectors of the Greek society. And you see the day after, people went there to clean, to put flowers. So there are instances of anti-Semitism and vandalism, but of course there is now a lot more vocal reaction to all these events. 2017, we have the announcement of the creation of the Holocaust Museum. And I know I'm a few minutes over my time. I apologize for that. And you see both the Israeli Prime Minister and the Israeli President who visited and participated in the inauguration. And hopefully the construction is going to start very soon. 2020, so this year, we had the visit of the president of Greece to the Jewish Museum, and she spoke of her emotion, respect, sadness, and even some shame. So these are very strong words coming from the first time from the mouth of the head of the Greek state, the president of Greece. This year also, we had, for the first time, the White Tower, the symbol of the city, was illuminated by the yellow star and by the uniform of an inmate to Auschwitz, another very important landmark in the memory of the history of the Holocaust in the city. And last but not least, and with this I conclude, Greece at the beginning of April assumed the presidency of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, which shows not only its commitment to the memory of the Holocaust locally and domestically, but also internationally as a leader in promoting good practice and coordinating the rest of the world in promoting the memory of the Holocaust and fighting anti-Semitism. And I thank you so much, and I thank you again for the honor of having me today.
Dr. Celtiel, thank you so much for that beautiful presentation, especially expounding on post-Holocaust Thessaloniki, which is in many ways it's still a vibrant community which people don't fully recognize, and a very special one we have close relationship with. So Dr. Celtiel, questo paraboli, merci mucho, as we say in Ladino. We now have a special musical recital by a dear, dear friend, Renan Cohen, who is a counselor of the Jewish community of Turkey, on the board of the Jewish community of Turkey, and a world-renowned pianist and singer, who will recite 3 songs for us. 2 of these are a global premiere for these Holocaust Remembrance songs, and they'll be very special, particularly for our communities related to the Sephardic identity and past. Renan, whenever you are ready.
Thank you so much, Ethan. Distinguished speakers and guests, it's a really honor to be here for me tonight. I would like to thank to Sephardic Brotherhood to organizing this very meaningful event and also to giving me this opportunity. So tonight I have a guest here, Eyüpcan Açıkbazu, ney player. He was a student of March of the Music 2019, and he completed my educational program named Positive Resistance Through Holocaust Reality. So tonight we would like to present and we would like to dedicate our first song to Turkish Jewish people who moved beginning of the 90s to Europe, and unfortunately who caught Second World War in Europe and who deported to some camps and perished there. So we would like to play first an Anatolian Sephardic song named Cuando la Comadre Dice. Queridas y queridos, I would like to introduce you a Holocaust survivor, Violette Mayofins. Violette Mayofins was born in Rhodos Island, and she was deported with her family to Auschwitz. Luckily, she survived by chance. And when she was there in Auschwitz, she wrote a poetry. The poetry name is La vida de los judíos en 1944. De nuestras casas nos quitaron, a la aviación ya nos entraron. Nuestros tesoros nos tomaron, al vapor nos embarcaron. Al vaporio entrimos, como sardelas nos estefimos. 10 días naveguimos, a Pireos derbascomos. Como los perros arrastimos, muchos queridos allá pedrimos, para Haidar proseguimos. A Haidaria arribimos, de Haftonás nos consumimos, 3 días estuvimos, de ansias nos abatimos. Al tren ya nos entraron, sin comer nos dejaron. 14 días viajimos, a Auschwitz derbasquimos. We have been sent out from our houses. They took our treasures. They put us to the boat. We stepped into the boat. We have been stacked like sardines. We shipped 10 days. We arrived to Piraeus. We walked like dogs. We lost our beloveds. We arrived to Haidaria. We drained away from the beaten. We stayed there for 3 days. We were destroyed by heartaches. We have been forced to get into the train. They left us hungry. We traveled for 14 days. We arrived to Auschwitz. And Violette wrote a music for a one stanza for this poetry. And I have been told by David Behar, who is from Seattle, and he told me that, you know, Renan, I heard this tune before in our synagogue, Rhodos Synagogue. Another memory coming from Salonika. Sadi Nahmias was a Hazan in Salonika, and he was deported with many others to Auschwitz. When they were in queue of gas chambers, Sadi Nahmias saw the people he knew was in a very bad shape. They were down. They were with no spirit at all. So Sadi Nahmias taught what to do in the queue of gas chambers. And he said that we used to sing En Kedoshayana together with the people in the synagogue. And he taught the people how to sing En Kedoshayana, and they started to sing. And people eventually was feeling better. And a Nazi soldier saw them. And he called Sadi Nahmias next to him, and he said, "Are you singing Greek?" And Sadi Nahmias said yes, because he was afraid to say that it was in Hebrew. And Nazi soldier told him that, okay, so come with me and you will sing to me whenever I want. So that's how he survived. So thank you so much for the story telling me. Thank you so much. The source of the story is Rabbi Adekave. So thank you so much. And I arranged En Kedoshayana for lay and piano. And at the end, we will finish with Ashkeva for Yom HaShoah. Thank you so much for being here. It's a great honor to us.
Thank you so much, Renan, and the entire Jewish community of Turkey for participating in this year's commemoration with that beautiful, beautiful mini concert dedicated to the Sephardic Jews and the Romaniote Jews of the Shoah. Thank you. We will now continue on towards the end of our program to our special virtual memorializing. And although we can't be together this year because of COVID and other challenges, we can be together in spirit. And one of the traditional things we do often is write memorial candles. So for each different city in the Sephardic and Romaniote world that was affected by the Holocaust, we'll be asking particular participants in connection to those cities to light one on their behalf. So first, I would like to ask Sarah Alwesi to please light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Monastir. Thank you, Sarah. I would now like to ask Ms. Anna Garti to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Corfu. Thank you, Anna. I would now like to ask Alexis Casuto to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Castoria. Thank you, Alexis. I would now like to ask Martin Marcus to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Veria. Thank you, Marvin. I would now like to ask Marcia Haddad Ikonomopoulos to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Kabbalah. Thank you, Marcia. I would now like to ask Alana Hassan to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish communities of Rhodes and Kos. Thank you, Alana. I would now like to ask Gabby Judu Alkabek from the Matzah family to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Ioannina. Thank you, Gabby. I would now like to ask Barry Mionis to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Hartop. Thank you, Barry. I would now like to ask Stella Bakolis to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Ladisa. Thank you, Stella. I would now like to ask Sam Nachmias to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Athens. Thank you, Sam. I would now like to ask Igor Benzion to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Sarajevo in Bosnia. Thank you, Igor. And then I'd like to ask our dear friend David Baruch to light a candle on behalf of his native Jewish community of Patras. Thank you, David. And now I'd like to ask Mark Ettinger to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Preveza. Thank you, Mark. And now I'd like to ask Esther Mizrahi Elting to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Drama. Thank you, Esther. And now I'd like to ask Andrew Marcus to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Chania. Thank you, Andrew. Last but certainly not least, I'd like to ask Dr. Devin Nar to light a candle on behalf of the Jewish community of Salonika. Thank you, Devin, and the entire Nar family. At this point, we will now conclude this program with the Ashkeva memorial prayers. The first prayer will be sung in Hebrew, followed by the prayer read recited in English, in Greek, and lastly in Ladino. I'd first like to ask Rabbi Solomon Ben Zaken to read the Ashkeva memorial prayer first in Hebrew. Rabbi, Bechavod. Just need you to unmute. There you go.
Simon Ben Zaken. Can you hear me?
We can hear you whenever you're ready.
This is a composition of an Ashkeva using some excerpts from our Sephardic custom and also our Ashkenazi custom. Tov Shem Mishemen Tov, V'yom HaMavet Miyom Hivaledo, El Male Rachamim, Shochen B'Maromim, Dayan Almanot Va'avi Yetomim, Hamse Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, Ve'hu Yitmale Berachamav HaMerubim, Linfashot, Ruchot U'Nshamot, במעלות קדושים וטורים וגיבורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים, 6 מיליונים יהודים, אחינו ואחיותינו הקדושים, רבבות אלפי ישראל, ובכללם אחינו ואחיותינו הספרדים והרומניות, שנפלו חלק מ6 מיליוני היהודים, אנשים, נשים וטף, חללי השואה במלחמת עולם השנייה באירופה, שנהרגו, שנשחטו, שנשרפו, שנחנקו, שנקברו חיים, ושהומתו בכל מיני מיתות משונות ואכזריות, ושנספו על קידוש השם בידי המרצחים, הגרמנים הנאצים ועוזריהם משאר העמים יימח שמם. לכן בעל הרחמים והסליחות, הסתירם בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצל שדי יתלוננו, ולקץ הימים תעמידם, ומנחל אדניך תשכם, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם, ותשים כבוד מנוחתם, ותלווה עליהם השלום, ותקיים בהם מקרא שכתוב, ונכחה אדוני תמיד, והצביע בצחצחות נפשך, ועצמותיך יחליץ, והיית כגן רבה, וכמו צמאים אשר לא יכזבו מימיו, אדוני הוא נחלתם, בגן עדן תמנוחתם, ויעמדו לגורלם לקץ הימים, וינוחו בשלום על משכבותם ונאמר אמן.
Thank you, Rabbi Ben-Sikim. I'll now ask Rabbi Daniel Adar from Temple Moses, the Sephardic Congregation of Miami, to read the Ashkeva in English. Rabbi Adar, the Chavod.
So that Ashkeva was incredible, and it incorporated many elements from both the women's Ashkevot. Typically we have for women, typically we have for men, typically we have for rabbis, typically we have for different elements, and each one is a different Ashkeva. That incorporated all of it. So I'm just going to highlight the core elements there. That we said, Tov Shem, Yishem, and Tov, B'yom Hamav, and Yom Hivalado. It is better to have a good name, and it's a play off the Hebrew word of Shem in Hebrew means name, Shemin means oil, which means wealth, of course. So instead we say Tov Shem, Yishem, and Tov, better to leave this world with a good name than good oil. And then the course of that, the rest of the Ashkeva, we said that the soul should be bound up in the eternal bond of life with God, and that their internal spring of water should always spring forth, meaning water is a metaphor for the soul, for Torah, and that their memory should continue to be a blessing. And as part of that concept, there's no question, without a doubt, that everybody who had passed away at the Tov Shem with the greatest name, people that held strong in their Judaism, and people who held strong in their faith, and people who held strong with their neighbors and their loved ones. And in remembering them today, we say that their souls should be bound in the eternal bond of life. May they always continue to have the zechut, a merit from all that they have given of themselves, and for all that we continue to do on their behalf. And may they continue to be a melit yosher, to pray in the heavens for us, all of our community, and the whole world. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Hadar. I'm now going to ask Rabbi Gabriel Negrin of the city of Athens to recite Ashkeva in Greek. Rabbi Negrin, Chavod, just need you to unmute.
Thank you, Ethan. Πολύ εύσπλαχνε, Κύριε, Θεέ της καλοσύνης, πολυέλε δέσποτα του ουρανού και της γης, Συ ο αιώνιος ζωοδότης δικαστής ο αληθινός, Συ ο δίκαιος όσιος κριτής ο επίκης, Συ που με δικαιοσύνη δίδεις τη ζωή και με δικαιοσύνη την αφαιρείς. Ανάπαυσε, παρακαλούμε σε, τις ψυχές των αδικοχαμένων άσπλων αδελφών μας, χιλιάδων αθώων θυμάτων, Εβραίων μαρτύρων και ηρών του ολοκαυτώματος, πολύτιμων τέκνων των ιερών Ισραηλιτικών κοινοτήτων Αθηνών, Αλεξανδρούπολης, Άρτας, Βέρειας και Βόλου, Διδημοτήχου, Δράμας, Θεσσαλονίκης, Ιωαννίνων, Καβάλας, Καρδίτσας, Καστοριάς, Κέρκυρας, Κομοτηνής, Κρήτης, Κο, Λάρισας, Νέας Ορεστιάδας και Σουφλίου, Ξάνθης, Πάτρας και Αγρινίου, Πρέβεζας, Ρόδου, Σερών, Τρικάλων, Φλόρινας και Χαλκίδος και όλων των ακτών της Μεσογείου και της Βαλκανικής, που ήταν αναπόσπαστο κομμάτι των εκατομμυρίων αγνών αδελφών μας, που φρικτά δολοφονήθηκαν, μαζικά βάναυσα και σκληρά σφαγιάστηκαν, απάνθρωπα αποτεφρώθηκαν και άφησαν την τελευταία τους πνοή, αγιάζοντας το πάνσεπτο όνομά σου. Ύψιστε παντοκράτορα, αιώνιε βασιλιά, άρχοντα της κάθε πνοής των ενσαρκωμένων ζωντανών, ποιμένα των ψυχών των ανθρώπων, ήθε να σταθείς ακλόνητος φρουρός της μνήμης τους. Με αγάπη ποτισέτες από τον εκλεκτό σου ποταμό και ευλόγησέτες με την ελεήμονα δεξιά σου. Συ που όλα τα γνωρίζεις και όλα τα συγχωρείς, χορήγησέ τους βαθιά ανάπαυση Γαλήνη ας επικρατεί στον τάφο τους και ας τους συντροφεύει παντότινα ειρήνη και αυτό ας είναι το θέλημά σου και είπατε αμέν.
Thank you, Rabbi Negrin. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Last, in our Ashkavot, we're going to have Rabbi Nisim El Nakave read the Ashkeva memorial prayer in Ladino. Rabbi, the Chavot.
Thank you. Thank you, Ethan. The text of this Ashkeva is the text that was read by our dear Rabbi, Rabbi Moshe Asher Murciano, passed away a year ago. He was the rabbi of the Thessaloniki Synagogue of Forest Hills, the Sephardic Synagogue, for many, many years. The text was made available to us by our dear Dr. Kehillah. Ashrei Sharet Adonai b'mitzvotav hafez me'od, tov shem yeshem tov, v'im hamavet mimei valedo. Bienaventurado el hombre temiente a Adonai, y en sus encomendanzas envenentó mucho. Más mejor nombre bueno, más que aceite fino. Y día de su muerte, más que el día de su nacer. Rahamana. Dios, lleno de piedades, tú que moras en las alturas, rogamos a ti, a que des tranquilidad y reposo al pie del trono divino, en la morada de los bienaventurados, donde brilla sin quedar un esplendor sin igual, a las almas de aquellos bravos y héroes, miembros del pueblo de Israel, que afirmaron todo lo que encomendates en tu santa ley, con toda sinceridad y con su sabiduría y sus acciones. Relumbraron y inspiraron a los descendientes de Jacob, membra para bien a los que se privaron de todos los gustos y placeres de la vida, dedicados a enseñar a sus hijos tu santa ley, y fueron quemados sobre los quemaderos. Acórdate los que con entusiasmo alabaron tu nombre y cantaron nuestras oraciones, y fueron arrastrados por el enemigo con desdeño y menosprecio. Sea su memoria bendita. Los ángeles de la paz lloran amargamente por los padres, madres, jóvenes, chicos y mamantes, los que fueron arrancados y espartidos los unos de los otros, y por fin entregaron sus almas por la santidad de tu nombre. Y después de ser quemados, la esencia de sus cadáveres devino polvo de la tierra llena. Dales los que se les merece a aquellos héroes que pelearon y entregaron sus almas con el Shema Israel en sus labios. Bendice a aquellos que pelearon cuerpo y alma por establecer una morada de siempre para Israel y hacer tornar tu pueblo a la tierra prometida. Tú que sos rey de los reyes, rogamos a ti a que des reposo a todos aquellos de nuestros padres, hermanos, hijos, que hicieron el sacrificio supremo y pelearon y murieron en campos de batalla a traer la paz en el mundo. Y tú, Creador del universo, te rogamos que en paz descansen tus escogidos y seas con ellos misericordioso. Ven Omar. Amén.
Thank you, Chacham. That concludes this year's International Sephardic Romaniote Yom HaShoah commemoration. I want to leave you all with one thought. Doing these things is so important. Making sure that we remember those lives that were lost, those who survived, and those communities that once existed is critical. But it's also critical not only for the sake of their memories, to remember them, but to get involved and ensure that their communities, their identity, and their heritage stays alive and thrive for the next generation. That's what personally motivates me to make sure that our Ladino-speaking Sephardic communities and Greek-speaking Romaniote communities survive, thrive, and flourish into the 21st century. So I want to leave you with a message of get involved, not only just in the memory of these communities, but get involved in the existing communities, in your local community, the national community, the Sephardic Brotherhood, or internationally. Volunteer, donate, create a program, teach your kids, and more importantly, your grandkids, to value their identities and get involved and ensure that the next century will be one of flourishing for our communities, not one of perishing. I want to take a moment again and thank our generous benefactors, the Russo family, the Baral family, and the Shalom family for their support, without which this event would be possible. And finally, all our national, international partners and our participants for this day's event. Merci mucho para todos. Thank you all so much for participating with us today.